Arif Halaby on your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS.
Hey, welcome to the show, the Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halaby, along with a special guest, as in returning guest, Jeff Gerard. Very excited to have him back. He was out for a little bit.
Thank you.
Look, when we're talking about your family's finances, you got to realize a couple of things that take place. Number one, you need to understand that the choices that you make have to be right for you, not your family, not your cousins, brothers, mother, or your neighbor, or even your children. Because we see this over and over again, that people are making financial choices based on their children's wishes, meaning, Mom, don't you want to do this? No, son, I think that means you want to inherit that someday. Don't you want a house in the mountains? I can barely walk on a dry ground, let alone icy ground, and you're telling me, well, son, you want to inherit the house in the mountains. Aha. So, you see things where people will make choices, especially when they retire and or when they inherit money themselves, that aren't always the choices that are best for them. So today we're going to cover a couple of things. Number one, retiring outside of the United States. A little bit of wrinkle for that, right? A lot of you are thinking maybe, just maybe, you might retire outside of California. You've heard me say this, but just in case. We have such a far left-wing government in the state of California. It has never been like this before that in memory that I know, where every single branch is basically controlled, all of it, by one party. So that's fine. When things go well, they get to take credit. When things don't go well, you get to take the blame. And we are so backwards. I like to say we're so corrupt. Now you might say, corrupt? What does that mean? Someone stealing money out the back door? I don't know if they are, if they're taking, bottles of whiskey or sides of beef, They're doing something. Because suddenly we turn around and instead of saying, hey, the fire's, the house is on fire, let's put it out, they're saying, I think we should throw some gasoline over here in the corner. I think we should go to CBS News. You'll see last year, September, I want to say. They actually did a story on how the pension crisis is so upside down, how the city of San Jose and other cities, big cities around the country, but specifically around the state, are so backwards when it comes to the dollars that they're expected to have set aside, that we are looking at 15, 20, 30%, in some cases half or more of the budget is going to pay pension dollars for those that are retiring. That means, wow, there's just no money left. I mean, do you understand that it just doesn't work? Instead, they should say, listen, your pension is going to not decide on how long you work but the city's revenue. We will set aside 20%, I don't know if that's the number, pick a number, 20% of the city's revenue, whatever it is every year, and that'll go into the pension fund. And then wherever the math is at the end of the story, hey, if we did really well, if the investments did really well, if the tax base did really well, then you're going to have a really darn good pension. But if not, then you're going to have a crummy pension. Now, maybe that's the only answer. Now, it's going to take a complete overhaul to do that. But I think you're going to see problems where it's going to start pushing people, it already is, to leave the state. Look, I paid nearly $4 a gallon gasoline. A friend of mine took a picture of the gas pump in Arizona, Lake Havasu, $2.19. Now, you've got to understand, the dollars, the gas isn't any different. In fact, the refineries are here in California. So it's pulled out of the ground here in California, drives down the street and is refined and turned into gasoline here in California, and then drives down the street and gets dumped into the big tanks in the ground for your gas station. So why is it that we are paying so much more for gas? Because you have such a left-wing agenda where you have political people thinking that social manipulation of behavior is the right thing to do, and we're going to punish those that can't fly in private jets or drive limousines. Right? You understand that, right? These wealthy, crazy folks that are running around saying you shouldn't be driving a car unless you have somebody in the carpool lane with you. You shouldn't be driving an 8-cylinder pickup truck because it eats so much gas. Those are the same people that fly around in private jets and have other people drive them in their limousines that get 4 miles per gallon. Right? I need you to start thinking logically, because we are pushing out people. The people we are pushing out aren't the poor people. We are pushing out people that are making money, people that retire, which means they have money to spend, and they spend money because they need food, shelter, clothing, right? Those people we are pushing out. They're not taking a job, and they're dumping money into the economy. That's a great thing. We want more of those. But instead, right when they retire and they start to have money coming in, they bail to Arizona or Texas or Nevada or Washington State or Utah or Idaho or Tennessee, North Carolina. Listen, 1 out of 3 of my clients, I've done this now 21 years, 1 out of 3 of my clients today are retiring outside of California. It used to be 1 out of 10. When I started, it was 1 out of 10. And they, okay, for various reasons, go back to their the place where they were born or just for other reasons. Today, it's almost always because of the cost of living here and the taxes here. Almost always. Nearly 100% of the time. So what does that mean to you if you're the one that's left here and they tell you, hey, listen, by the way, just shut the lights off on your way out the door. Right? California's closing and somebody's get the lights. So I think part of it is you can believe all the crazy stuff that they want us to believe. I'm okay with that. You know, banning plastic bags and having this Prop 65. Have you ever seen that? Prop 65. Everybody, we need this Prop 65. So what was that? It's a sign that says there are items and chemicals here in this building that can cause cancer. Right? Because, you know, people would work in places and they didn't know that there was chlorine bleach in the back or some sort of other chemical that could cause cancer. So what does everybody do? They just put the sign everywhere. So now the sign is everywhere. It means nothing anymore. But boy, let's do symbolism over substance. Let's feel good that we passed Prop 65, the millions of dollars it took to get that on the ballot. People thought, oh, well, I think we should tell people when there's chemicals. So now they just put the sign everywhere. Have you seen it? It's at gas stations. It's at restaurants. It's at every workplace. Because everything can cause cancer if you, right? I mean, come on. So instead of having meaning, like real value, we are pushing the right people that are making money from their pensions or their retirement accounts that would spend it at your restaurants, at your dry cleaners, at your grocery stores, your gas stations, your movie theaters. Retirees, we want them here. And instead, we are pushing them away. So here's some places. I'm going to give you some of the top countries that these people are retiring to because I think you need to know it because maybe it's right for you. All right, Jeff, here's one of the top. Now, listen, I'm not going to tell you that some of these places aren't socialized and or higher taxes than here, right? Because many of them are. So this is just where people say, my dollar can go further, even if there is an increase in expenses, etc.
Well, I think a lot of people are looking for that serenity and that beauty when it comes to retiring because they want to feel good about all the work they've done all these years and they've saved and they've accumulated, and now where can they spend it that's going to make them feel the best? And you know, Italy is right at the top of one of the lists out there. So
yeah, imagine for a minute living in an Italian countryside and the dollars that you have coming in from Social Security or your pension or the required minimum distributions that you're pulling out of your retirement accounts. Imagine those dollars go twice, maybe 3 times as far. So you really end up in a position where you can live amazingly well and not be subject to the income tax of California, right?
Well, and that's an important point you bring up because the income is what's going to matter. So as long as you can afford the lifestyle wherever it is you're going. And so things like that, you know, raise some questions. You know, what about some of the benefits that people receive? If they're living off of their savings, I guess they can just take that anywhere in the world with them.
Yeah, and imagine for a minute trying to cross illegally into Italy or to Sweden, which is our number 9.
Yeah.
Right? Try to go there and say, hey, I want some benefits.
Yeah.
Give me free stuff. Not only do they laugh at you, but they kick you in the fanny on your way out the back door. Right?
Yeah.
Try to smuggle yourself illegally into Mexico. See what happens there. Try to be a Guatemalan or a Honduran trying to get into the southern border of Mexico. See how how you're treated there.
Well, just find the sanctuary city within those.
Don't think they exist.
Oh, all right.
Nice
Sorry.
try.
Must be a California thing.
All right, Sweden. Hey, Sweden is another top place, according to a recent poll on U.S. World and News Report, as a place for people to retire. Now, obviously, there's plenty of beauty in Sweden. I don't know if you've been there. I've been to one little city in Sweden. Amazing, amazing. And the people are incredible. But what else do we see? Probably one of my favorite countries I recently have traveled to.
Right.
Ireland. Big cities in Ireland. In fact, I was in Dublin. When you drive through the streets of Dublin, except for being on the wrong side of the road, we're on the right side, right? They drive on the same side as the British. Besides that, you would think you were in San Jose or Santa Clarita or Marina del Rey. Now you go, why do you say that, Arif? Well, number one, it's green everywhere, so that's a little bit of a difference. But most importantly, what do you see? You see signs that say Amgen, Medtronic, Pfizer, Apple, IBM, Dell Computer. American countries, when for the last 10 years we've been saying, hey, reduce the corporate tax, Ireland said, hey, bring it over here. You'll have tax-free growth. So the money goes over there. The corporations go over there. It's called we're trying to repatriate those dollars back. We'll see if the Trump tax plan works. So far, so good. We'll see. Still early to tell if countries are going to bring the dollars back. But when they bring those dollars back, now there's investment back into the United States. Equipment, machinery, real estate. How many of you know a commercial real estate agent? And that commercial real estate agent, whether they're leasing or buying agents, and a company says, we're going to relocate and we need 1 million square foot of business space in whatever city or community, can you not tell me that commercial real estate agent is going to have a big payday? Right? I think they'll make lots of money, maybe even 6-7 figures by the time it's all done. So there's a lot of people that benefit. The cleaning crews that clean the place, the folks that provide the furniture, the moving companies. You understand when companies move to the United States, it's a very good thing. When companies leave California, like Nestle just did, an entire building in the city of Glendale, virtually, gone. People poof. Because the state of Virginia said, hey, listen, if you move your headquarters here, you're going to be closer to Europe, where your headquarters is, right? Because Nestle is a European, Scandinavian company. And we'll give you a building for free. It's been an empty building sitting in Virginia doing nothing. And we'll give you 10 years of no tax. So if you're a company and your job is to make sure that your employees and yourself and your shareholders do well, you say, bye, California, and poof, you're gone. My commitment to you was to stay and to continue to give you updated reports on whether they're going to fine us again. This is the 3rd year now. We'll see if they do it. And I'll let you know. We should know here in the next couple weeks, where the state of California 2 years ago, 3 years ago in 2015, they borrowed money from the federal government, didn't make the payment. So the state of California went to every employer and said, we're going to fine you $150 per employee that you have. So, we have 7 or 8 employees. I can't remember at the time, whatever we had. And that, since they didn't pay it in 2015, we had to pay that in February 2016. And they took $150 per employee. All right. Toyota said, forget this. What the heck? We have thousands of employees. So Toyota left. They said, we're moving. They moved to Plano, Texas that year. The next year, they said, oh, well, but we'll get it fixed. We'll get it straight. I promise. Toyota said, we don't believe you. And off they left. So the next year, which was 2017, they fined us $175 per employee. That's when Nestle said, you know what? You guys aren't going to get this together. You're the same political party. There's no resistance. One idea from the far left leadership, and everybody just nods. Yeah. Nobody says, you know what? Companies are leaving, and yes, we have lots of jobs, yay, but they're $10 and $15 and $20 an hour jobs. We lost $50, $60, $70 an hour jobs. So state of California, you want to count a job as a job as a job. That's not true. A $50 an hour machinist pays a lot more taxes, buys a lot more things than a $15 an hour barista. They both are good people. You need both jobs, right? So you can promote, you get yourself up, you get some experience, learn how to show up on time, learn how to do your work, right? You do all those things. But you can't tell me that a job is a job is a job. So a lot of people we find are moving to some obscure places in Europe.
Luxembourg. I couldn't even spell that unless I looked at it. You're talking about these businesses leaving. I think, we talk about retirees leaving. That's one person, maybe even a family. A business leaves. That's an exponential hurt on wherever they leave. They leave a void there because that's potentially hundreds of employees doing those same things that those retirees are doing. So we have to really think about this.
And Luxembourg is a very expensive, believe it or not, part of Europe, outside of Germany, adjacent to Germany. And Luxembourg, you might say, well, it has socialized medicine.
Yeah.
So we have socialized medicine now.
Right.
If you're 65 or older, you have to have Medicare. Or if you don't, no problem. Just try to get it when you're 70 and look at the fines and penalties you pay. Because if you don't sign up for Medicare when you hit 65 years old, every year that you wait, you pay a potential penalty if you ever choose to turn around and sign up for it. Unless you have a job that has health insurance that's covering you, then they waive some or all of that. Okay, what about our friends to the north, Jeffrey? We're finding a lot of folks wanting to...
Canada, I mean, it's a popular place to go. It's pretty close by, and I think a lot of that has to do with the comfort level, looking at proximity, and they don't have to get on an airplane for a long flight to get there, or across any water, so that's pretty safe to a lot of people. So,
yeah, especially when you're looking at Quebec and Quebec City. Canada has such a socialized healthcare system that there's been reports, in fact, somebody had to go and apologize, who was a governor of one of their provinces. I don't know if they call him governor, but similar to like a governor of a state, one of the provinces, who had a heart surgery he had to go through, and he came to the United States.
I remember that.
And he said, I'm not going to get this in Canada. It's a socialized medicine. Oh my gosh, boy, the Canadians went just crazy. I apologize. Really? This is your life, your health. You should go wherever you want to go. But he ended up leaving Canada and coming down to the United States to get his treatment. I want to say it was the Mayo Clinic, but I'm not positive. But yes, he left. So, of course, there's drawbacks in Canada. But when you have the Arctic to the north and you have the most successful, prosperous country and government ever to your southern border, we fight the battles. We send in 1 million troops or whatever. Let's just say we send in 100,000 troops. Canada sends in 20,000. That's fine.
It's like having a tough older brother, right?
Yeah, that's right. What he said.
When you think about, you're talking about healthcare, how many people around the world come to the United States for the training and that level of expertise that they gain, that knowledge that they gain here in the United States, and then they can go back to their own country and have a practice there. When
we come back, I'm going to give you a little bit of, I think it's going to be shocking information. All right, so wait till we return. I think you'll be surprised on some of the healthcare loopholes, maybe, when we come back. On your place for News, Talk, and Information, I'm Arif Halaby. That's Jeff Gerard. This is The Truth. Sorry, the Total Financial Hour. On your place for News, Talk, and Information, your hometown station, KHTS.
The Santa Clarita Artists Association has a new gallery in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Main and Railroad, right across from the Canyon Theater Guild. The gallery features our members' paintings, sculptures, and one-of-a-kind handcrafted gift items. Whether you're an art lover, buyer, or an artist wishing to join, visit our website at santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming events and exhibits, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
Did you see that car?
Isn't it the best? A moving advertisement.
Command eye-catching attention with the vehicle wrap by Feathers. Feathers can turn your company vehicles into a cost-effective moving billboard. Their high-quality, high-resolution vehicle wraps deliver excellent marketing exposure. Feathers works closely with you to clearly display your message, whether it's for branding of a new product, increasing name recognition, or promoting an event. Feathers Vehicle Wraps gets the job done. Feathers on Soledad and Canyon Country across from Edwards Theaters.
Your hometown station.
This is your place for News, Talk, and Information, your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
All right, welcome back to the show, the Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halaby, talking about your family's finances. All right, we're getting into some of the, where do I retire? Where do people live when they retire. A lot of folks are leaving California. You've heard me say this. I've tried forever to yell this from the mountaintops, but you don't get a lot of response when, I don't know if it's because the view of our politicians, of our state politicians, is so skewed as to thinking, well, that's just, you let those little peons, those peasants, let them scream and yell all they want. They just don't understand. They don't understand. Well, let's understand some of the loopholes. Number one is you realize that our politicians are not subject to Obamacare. These clowns in California, when they pass this, we need to stand up, right? What is it? Holder, one of my favorite guys. State of California ends up paying him millions of dollars. I don't know if he's a state employee or directly, but what's his job? It's to sue the federal government, to spend your money to sue the federal government, which takes away your tax revenue, which takes away your dollars that you've been given to the state so that it can build a better infrastructure. And that's the kind of decision-making process. Instead of understanding that there are loopholes in our healthcare system, and the loopholes in our healthcare system, if you had a full, let's be able to buy from Tennessee, you want to buy from Chicago's health, whatever you can, buy from state lines, be able to write it off on your taxes, guaranteed issue, done. And then let the chips fall where they may. And I bet you would be surprised, because every time we've done that with auto insurance and other, you've seen a reduction in payments, reduction in premiums, spreading out of the risk. But here's one of the loopholes. Let's take two things. Might seem a stretch, but stay with me. The United States government says if you are born on U.S. soil, which includes a military base or a territory, you are automatically what?
A citizen.
A citizen. So you have seen large amounts of immigrants, illegal immigrants from the South. They come up over the border. Take a look at the clinics and the hospitals around the southern part of the United States. They are, by and large, inundated. Sometimes 50%, sometimes 100% of the births there are to illegal immigrant parents. Poof. Now they have a child that's an American citizen. You can't deport one of your own citizens, and who's going to watch over him? Pick me, says the parent. Right? All right. We've kind of known that. Everybody's closed the left eye, the right eye, kind of squinted a little bit and says, well, we're kind of not really going to pay attention to it, but I guess it's there. Well, did you know that we have a place that's a territory named Saipan? Saipan. Now, Saipan, by the way, is a little bit of geography, is an island in the Marianas Islands archipelago, right outside of Guam plus. Go east. All right? It's a small little island. During World War II, it became a U.S. territory. All right. Now, just like Puerto Rico has its own, and Guam has its own, and can have its own trade relations and its own governmental setup, but it's still a U.S. territory, right? Saipan has its own relationships with visa requirements, etc., with China. So China, you don't, and other countries in the area, you do not have to have a visa, which means there's no permit. You just say, hey, I'm going to go there, show your passport, show up. I think it's a 3-month stay. So guess who's now catching a plane, going on vacation in Saipan at all times of the year, and now Chinese elites, right, because you got to be able to afford, which is now a huge percentage of China. It used to be very, very few. A huge percentage of Chinese are now having their babies, surprise, in Saipan. So now, just like we had, by and large, Mexicans and Central Americans that were coming across the border and having babies along the border hospitals, you now have Chinese doing the same thing in Saipan. Now, if U.S. citizenship is to be manipulated, massaged that way, then fantastic. But who do you think will pay for that? I don't know. I'm not going to answer that. You. It's somebody has to pay for that. If you think it's big, rich corporations, I just told you where they go. It's called Dublin, Ireland. Now, that's not right. We should punish them. Okay, I guess. Then if that's what everybody wants to do, punish them. You wouldn't open a business if you were going to be punished. You'd say, never mind, I'll go do something else, right? So you have to be very careful when you are looking at a retirement plan that says, I'm going to live over in this part of the world or this part of the world, because there may be a tax burden that jumps on you from a place like Portugal, which is our number 5. I love Portugal. It's actually one of my favorite countries in the world, probably top 3, because the people are amazing, wonderfully warm people. Always turmoil in the government. There's always something going on there, right? I guess kind of like here, there's always something going on. But if you want to retire in Portugal, your dollars would go the furthest than probably any other European Union country.
Interesting. Why is that?
I think because, number one, they appreciate Americans. I think they also appreciate the resistance and the pushback to Spain, which is our 4th, and I like both of those countries. But I'll tell you something funny. I was in Lisbon, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. Lisbon, Portugal. It's called Lisboa. You'd go to Lisbon, Portugal, and I was, I took Spanish 3. I speak a little bit of Spanish, and so I arrive, and we kind of have a routine that we do. My wife and I, we put our stuff in the hotel, and then we start exploring. So we got a taxi cab, and so I'm speaking to him in Spanish, and it's not going really well because I'm probably messing up and conjugating the verbs incorrectly. So I get to the place, and he pulls the cab over. I don't know, we may have been in the car maybe 2 minutes. He pulls the cab over, and he says, "You're American," in almost flawless accent. "You're American?" I said, "Oh, yes." He said, "You speak English?" "Yes." He says, in Portugal, we believe that God created the language. And we believe that Portuguese is the top. Number 2 is English. A whole bunch of other languages, and then Spanish.
Oh, my goodness.
So if you can't speak Portuguese, no problem, just speak English.
That's funny.
Of course, I was like, "Yes, sir. Sorry, I didn't mean it." Because there's always this rivalry. Now, of course, if you go to Western Spain, they're going to say the same thing. There's a little bit of a rivalry. Watch them play soccer or football. Oh my gosh, is there a rivalry? Just like we have rivalries in this country.
Oh, I bet you didn't share with him that Spain is probably one of your favorite places in the world, right?
It's one of my favorites, the southern part of Spain, because the food.
Oh.
Well, the people, of course, are amazing too, but the food in Spain, you're seeing a lot of Americans move to Spain. Now, Spain still has a king. However, the monarch, the king, if you will, in Spain, is very much symbolic. He has to have a job. He certainly owns businesses. Everybody wants to partner with the king in this next real estate development. So, they make a lot of money that way. Can I put your name on just like movie stars today, right? Or Jack Nicklaus with the golf course. Hey, I just want to say that, you're a partner in this golf course. Oh, great. So Spain. All right, Jeff, talk to me about this third one, because I don't see too many people thinking of this place as a retirement.
No, and if you want a nice watch, this is where you go. Switzerland. It's got to be one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen.
I think you're right. Switzerland itself has an amazing setup of trains and roads through the middle of mountains. In other words, you're driving along, going through the middle of a mountain, wondering when did they build this tunnel, right? So you see lots of infrastructure. You can get around the rest of Europe. It's very safe. One thing that's interesting about Switzerland, people never ask themselves anymore, why didn't Hitler invade Switzerland? He got all around it, Austria, Germany, Italy. Why didn't he invade or persuade Switzerland to become part of the Nazi Party? Anybody know? Well, I'll tell you. I'm glad you asked. Because in Switzerland, it is required for every man, woman, and child, and I think the child is above the age of either 10 or 12, for every man, woman, and child to own 2 guns, a rifle and a pistol. And every year they have to qualify, they have to show proficiency in it. So when you have an entire nation where every single member of the population, virtually, is armed, Hitler realized that and this is now post-war, of course you can see it, that the carnage and the amount of, when you stir up the hornet's nest, the amount of damage that would have been done, because it's house to house to house fighting, that it would just take out too many of his soldiers, and he said, we're just going to go around it.
Because he wasn't just fighting the military in that case. He'd have every man, woman, and child bearing arms.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very similar to what you might see in certain parts of the south of France when a lot of villages were armed. Yeah. But you could come in and destroy the whole village. But Switzerland itself has a very, very significant amount of pride when it comes to their independence. There's some embarrassments in some of the ways that they handled some of the gold from World War II and the Jewish art, etc. So there's some history there that's shameful. But it is becoming a place where wealthier Americans are retiring because it's not inexpensive to live in Switzerland. In fact, it's quite expensive in Geneva. I remember I was there, again, maybe 10 or 12 years ago. And in Geneva, Switzerland, 10 or 12 years ago, for a Coca-Cola for one can of Coke was $6.
My gosh.
I know, I don't know what it is today. $6. I remember that number just because it was the same cost as a small cup of coffee was $6.
Wow.
So who knows? And I ask, we were traveling on a budget, so for us it was a lot of money. We'd say, okay, let's share a Coke. No ice, please.
No refills.
Yeah. And I asked him, I said, why is it so expensive to live here? Or, this is silly. What is this for a Coke? And he says, well, you notice what agencies are here in Switzerland, or in Geneva. I said, well, I don't know what you mean. He says, well, you have the World Health Organization, you have the United Nations, UNESCO, and so a lot of the international, and they were not spending their own money, right? Because if you represent the Congo from Africa and you're assigned there, or if you represent Argentina and you're assigned there as a representative for United Nations Children something,
mm-hmm.
when you swipe a credit card, you're not swiping yours.
It's your per diem, probably.
That's right. You're just using the government's expense account.
Yeah.
Imagine now the United States, Germany, etc. So when all of that happens, he says, people aren't spending their own money, so we can charge what we want. Nobody cares.
Oh, my gosh.
I thought, wow, socialism at its best. All right, number 2.
Well, it's interesting. Number 2 and number 1, you don't want to confuse them. Talk about, different cultures being at rivalry in some cases. Australia is number 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Gold Coast.
Think about Australia. It's a place I've never been, but everybody that I know that has been there. In fact, I had a guy that I had worked with for some time who his wife was from Australia, and he was going to retire. They had a house down there, and they were going to retire down there. And he spent a little bit of time, but his kids were here, and so he spent most of his time back here and ultimately sold his house there. But with all of that, why are people moving to Australia? Remember, it is not poor people that leave. It is not people that have so much money that they don't mind spending $4 a gallon on gas. Whenever you raise sales tax, whenever you raise gasoline tax, it does not affect the big guy. It affects the little one. So now he or she is riding a bike more, or they're taking public transportation. And you might say, yay. Well, listen, if you're making $200,000 a year and they raise the gasoline tax, it's a pain in the tush. After a bit, you're gonna say we're gonna leave, but it doesn't change your life like it does to somebody who's making $15 an hour, right? That person, a raise in the gasoline tax affects a huge percentage of their income. So when the government comes in and continually finds another place to raise taxes, it predominantly will affect those on the lower income stream. So keep yourself in mind when you're looking at some of these other countries, you have to weigh, what does it really cost to live there? Do I have the same kind of freedoms? Because imagine for a minute you're in a place like, Mexico. I have a lot of clients that retired down in Mexico or Costa Rica. And whatever happens with the police or problem, you can't think the same. You don't have those rights. There's no rights.
Sure.
We are the only place in the world where the Constitution says, and the Declaration of Independence says, the rights are not given by a king, by a government, by a parliament. Our rights are inalienable, meaning they are God-given rights. So there is no government, there is no president, there is no parliament, there is no king or queen that is above that. So our rights are considered to be assumed as a human being. My friends from Canada don't feel the same way. They don't have that as a rule. They have a rule that you're not allowed to be offended. That they actually have a law against hate speech. Now, as long as it's something that you agree with, you're like, yeah. Oh, surprise, those of you that agreed with the last 8 years, how's it feel now? Oh, well, I don't think we should do it this way. Well, that's exactly what those the libertarian folks were saying. Saying, listen, right now you think these rules are good because your guy or gal is making them? Great. Surprise, wait till you get to the other side of it. When taxes are subject to whoever has a feeling, and this hate speech rule, and this, nobody has a right to not be offended. Where did that come from? Well, what is that? Of course you're supposed to be offended. And if you don't like it, you leave, you quit a job, you don't be friends anymore, you cancel your phone number. I mean, right? You can choose, change your Facebook page. What is it? Block people. You can do anything you want. Being offended is part of the United States. And you say, but that is rude. Well, then don't be friends with those people. Right? I'm not friends with people that I think are jerks. Because if you say something, Jeff, and it offends me, it's my problem, not yours. Because you can say the same thing to Joe and he's not offended.
Right.
So you didn't change. The only difference is me or Joe. So if I'm not willing to accept it and say, well, that's, you know what, you're darn right, and debate it and discuss, values or opinions, then just, I'm not friends with you anymore.
Sure.
I don't want to talk to you anymore. Go. And if that person is isolated and nobody's their friends, then he or she has a choice. I'm going to not have friends. I'm going to change my views. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to research and see if my views are appropriate or not. You've got to realize those decisions have shifted into financial, because today they are now penalizing you. All the way down to the 10 cents for a bag at a grocery store. There is no such thing as me stopping at the grocery store on the way home from work anymore. Because I will not pay 10 cents a bag. I'm like, oh, how insane. How is it that you guys accepted that? How did you say, that's right, and you went down the road? Because you think it's only 10 cents? Do you not understand when you shift the power to the crazy people in Sacramento that think that it's okay to tax you for a bag at a grocery store but not at a liquor store? Tax you for a bag at a grocery store but not at a men's clothing store? Where did that become normal? I think most of us have to realize when people are moving out of the country and out of the state in record numbers, you want a summer job? U-Haul and Mayflower and a couple of the other trucking companies, what you do, believe it or not, you know what a deadhead is? It means you're driving an empty truck.
Yep.
So what a lot of folks do, you go and apply for these companies. You have to have a truck driving license if it's the larger trucks. But they fly you to Dallas or to Florida or to Vegas, and then you deadhead or drive an empty truck back. Why? Because it used to be there was this normal homeostasis, this balance of people moving out of California, people driving those trucks back with loaded stuff and moving back into California. Today, it's between 4 and 5 to 1 leaving California for every one coming back full. But they need the trucks back here. So how are they going to get the trucks back? So they are paying people, and it depends. If it's Las Vegas, last numbers I heard I think was $200. But if it's Florida like Tampa or Miami and you're further down south, it's as much as $500 or $600.
Wow.
And they pay for you along the way. You stop at a hotel. They have a GPS in the car so they know where you are, the truck I should say, so they know where you are. And they pay for your airline flight to hop, skip, and leapfrog that truck back to California. So when that data comes out, do people go, how about that?
No one's talking about it, Arif.
No. Pass the Tabasco. Because, I mean, is anybody like, hey, listen, I can be far left or far right, but hey, 1 + 1 is 2.
Yeah.
So maybe, just maybe, we're messing up. And people are leaving because maybe, just maybe, we're doing something wrong. I don't know. Call me silly. We'll be back in just a minute. The Total Financial Hour. That's Jeff Gerard. I'm Arif Halaby, venting to you a little bit because I am seeing record amounts of money leaving California, folks. Of our client base, this is millions of dollars a year, and I'm just a little guy in Newhall. So it can, I don't know what it is if you add it all up across the country. How do we keep those folks here? Well, maybe, just maybe, we have to change. The Total Financial Hour on your hometown station, KHTS.
When you're looking for a midnight snack, sometimes fast food just doesn't cut it. Formerly Donut Inn, California Bakery and Cafe is now open 24/7, so you'll be able to find fresh donuts, danishes, bagels, all natural fruit juices, gourmet sandwiches, and much more at any hour. With elaborate cakes for any occasion, including weddings, baptisms, anniversaries, corporate events, or any special event. California Bakery and Cafe in Santa Clarita is open 24 hours to satisfy any craving, anytime. Call us 255-1254.
The Las Vegas shooting created awareness for all of us. Awareness to upgrade security at concerts. Awareness for clearly marked exit signs. Awareness on how to evacuate safely. And awareness to have tighter hotel security. The law offices of Owen Patterson Owen are working diligently with Las Vegas victims to prevent future tragedies from occurring, as well as protecting the rights of Las Vegas victims to receive financial assistance for their ordeal. If you know someone impacted by the shooting, visit opolaw.com. That's opolaw.com.
At Advanced Audiology, we know how important hearing is to you, your loved ones, your work success, your safety, and your ability to stay in the game. Most people won't admit hearing loss to themselves or others. We make it easy for you. Today's digital hearing aids come in a variety of styles, including invisible. All feature-rich, providing unparalleled hearing quality, wearing comfort, and automation that simplifies your life. Don't be fooled by our imitators. There's only one Advanced Audiology with the purple sign, next to AAA on Valencia Boulevard.
Hometown.
They're amazing, and every single one of their songs is amazing, except for like one.
Your hometown station.
Thanks for listening to your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
As you can. Welcome back to the show. Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halby, along with Jeff Gerard. Okay, listen, a lot of people are retiring outside of the United States. We're seeing that. We saw a lot of folks leaving California. Who am I seeing retiring more outside of the country? Believe it or not, it's not always the wealthiest. It's the folks that are just kind of on the border, meaning what we're finding is my Social Security, her Social Security, between the two of them and a little bit of a pension, and you're just kind of getting by, and you're finding that the house is paid for, but do you want to do a reverse mortgage? Do you want to sell it and move outside of the state? And a lot of folks are saying, listen, there's expat communities down in Mexico where you can live like a king on your Social Security, right? When I say expat, it's expatriate, meaning folks that usually Canada, Great Britain, and the United States, meaning it's an English-speaking enclave or a group of people, communities, neighborhoods, towns. And a friend of mine lives down in one of those, and I said, gosh, your Spanish must be getting pretty good down there. And he says, no, in fact, the folks that work at the restaurants and the stores and the places he goes, they all speak English. And he said in many cases they speak English better and they're more educated than the folks here that work in the same restaurants because they want to learn English. So they don't even let us speak Spanish. I thought, well, that's kind of weird. I thought you'd go down there and you'd learn Spanish, and I think it's a beautiful language. And he says, no, they don't. They don't really want to learn.
Well, they want to be more welcoming, I would assume as well.
Yeah, I'm certain it's part of it, and they see this as their opportunity to go to school every day at work, right? So you can learn another language and be up to snuff with the language that they think is dominant. If you are an air traffic controller in the world, whether you're from China, Malaysia, South Africa, it doesn't matter. Your language is always English in air traffic control. So whether you're an air traffic controller in the middle of Germany or an air traffic controller in the middle of Russia, your language is English. So it used to be that the language of diplomacy was French and the language of commerce is English. Today, we are seeing that different. We are seeing kind of everything be English. But watch for just a little bit. I think you're going to start to see Chinese start to pop up. So a lot of folks that are retired are retiring and learning other languages. Because in China, you have a record number, of course, of people, right? There's, 1.5 billion people in China. India is right behind it. Mm-hmm. You have almost, not quite, it depends on how you measure it, but almost more millionaires in China than man, women, and children in the United States. There's more millionaires in India than every man, woman, and child in the United States. Almost.
Wow.
Now, they also have almost as many deep dirt poor people on the bottom, right? Because it's a very much an hourglass economy. We're the only place in the world where it's not quite streamlined, but where we have generally a healthy middle class. Middle class folks today retire with anywhere between $500,000 and $1.5 million. What used to be, gosh, if I could only be a millionaire, today it's about to be that same, not worrying about anything, kind of riding out whatever problems economically come down the road. It's probably 3 million, maybe 5. Okay, you have that kind of amount of savings. You can live in Santa Clarita, you can live in the Antelope Valley, you can live in the San Fernando Valley and be okay. You're not going to buy the newest, greatest, biggest house on the hill because the taxes will eat you alive, right? Because you can pay off a house, but you never pay off taxes. You can pay off a house, but you still have to eat food, shelter, or clothing, right? You still have expenses. The government has figured out, the state government has figured out, to tax the things that you use every day, every day, every day. They're taking just a little bit of a piece. And by doing so, you see a much different scenario. Meaning, you could tax, I don't know, marriage licenses. Right? Marriage licenses, we're going to tax $100. Wow. But most people aren't getting married every month, right? Every year. It's a one-time thing. So the government does the math and says, people are going to be less likely because $100 might push those away. We want some that just kind of blend in. People are going to yell a little bit. But we can raise water and power rates because, we're going to add a tax for blind folks. We're going to add a tax for injured and disabled. We're going to add a tax for those that are poor. And right, they call it all these weird user fees. Look at your cell phone bill. Right, you understand you're paying taxes for people that can't afford cell phone bills. But go on the corner of J and 10th West on the, let me do the math here, southeast corner. And you will see a booth there in a gas station parking lot all the time, at least every time I've driven by, that says, come get your free, it had a sign that said Obama phone, even though this program existed before that, but it was expanded tenfold after President Obama was elected. Come get your free cell phone. Do you understand who gets the free cell phone? If you're poor in America, it means you have carpet on the floor. You certainly have heat, maybe or maybe not air conditioning, but you have heat. You have a cell phone, and you have free health care because right now you can walk into any hospital emergency room. Say your name is Joe Smith, Mary Jones, it doesn't matter. Forget your social security number, make up a birth date, and they will treat you. It has always been that way. Now the people said, "Oh, but they wouldn't be able to go into Dr. Smith's office." You're right. Dr. Smith says, "Well, you know what? You got to pay up or not." So people were going into emergency rooms. So what you do is you just say, "Listen, hey, healthcare wise, just let people go into urgent cares, create urgent care, government urgent cares across the country, and pay." They can come in with any name. You give them emergency care. You give them a 30-day supply of medicine, whatever it is that they need. That's it. Instead of overhauling this entire insurance problem, because guess what my insurance premium went up to? I don't even think you know.
I might not know that.
No, guess what it is? This just got it. Isn't this exciting? I went from $870 a month pre-Obamacare. Today, $3,122 a month.
Oh my gosh.
Which means I have to make about $60,000 a year, $60,000, pay taxes on that money. Then what's left, I get to, that doesn't include my $12,000 deductible.
My gosh.
So I have to pay $48,000 out of pocket in a year before the insurance company pays $1. So you can call that fair. What do you think I call it?
Not insurance.
Do you think I did not hire one extra person this year? Yes, I didn't. So there is somebody walking around who would have had a job. Why? Because I need to make sure my family has health insurance. Do you think I didn't do extra things this year or buy extra? Yes, because I have to make sure. Oh, but you got me. You got me, President Obama, with your dishonest presentation of, because he knew. Come on. He knew. Because I told some of the politicians, I gave them pieces of paper, I looked, and they knew, but they made choices. Because the greater good was to get people insured. And guess what? People were not insured. And you're going to have to carry health insurance through retirement. Whether you retire at age 50, 55, 60, 62, you need insurance between that time and now. So I hope they fix the health insurance system this year. We will be a proponent if it has the right things, which is freedom, choice. Why, if you're 26 or 22 years old, should you be forced to buy it? I don't know. Maybe people should. But when you take $3,000, I'm the only one that works in the family, right? And you're taking $3,000 a month? Oh, that's fair. You go get them. I told you 14 years ago, last week, my anniversary. 14 years ago, I told you my worst words that I think are the F word. Red is the F word? Fair. If I want an excuse to manipulate and control you, I will use the word fair. Right? Because I can make it up whatever I want. I say, oh, it's fair. You're like, fair to who? Well, I said it's fair. I could use the word try. I say, oh, we're going to try, which means you're not really going to do anything. So it's just a pre-excuse for failure. Right? Understand the goal for you is to build your financial life so you can retire, travel, live where you want to go, be what you want to be, and not be upside down with this financial system. Thanks for joining us. I'm Arif Halaby. That's Jeff Gerard. Your place for news, talk, and information. This is your hometown station, KHTS.
KHTS.